es lo que...
Oh, I forgot to put my tie on.
Branch out? They already did that. I missed that one.
They're different shopping center before. Oh, I'm not. I'm trying to see who's gonna be there with you.
All that, wait a minute, did you see how they handled it?
It's tomorrow, right?
Call to order the council meeting from May 15th, 2018. Will you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll for the City Council, the Housing Authority, the Finance Authority, and the Parking Authority?
A quorum is present for City Council, Successor Agency, and Housing Authority.
Any person wishing to address the council, the successor agency, or housing authority on any item on today's agenda may do so at this time.
Good afternoon, council members. It's my understanding that you're going to be presenting a report, and I would hope that it will actually be an oral report. In the past, you've been really good about making these little quickie meetings where absolutely no one at all can figure out what happened because they're just in shock that you voted for. In this case, would probably be close to 20 items without so much as a word, just aye. And that's really sad and pathetic. I would encourage anyone who wants to see how democracy actually works to watch any other city's council meeting within the South Bay area, because they do not function like this one. They actually involve their community, listen to what their community has to say. That has been absent from this room for many, well, now coming up on 7 years.
Conscious objector. I was reading in your yellow sheet here that you want to authorize the police, or have authorized them, to destroy certain documents from approximately 1992 to 1915, which was during the period when a lot of the atrocities committed against Americans, not only soldiers, but the people themselves, that are covered under the Constitution. You don't authorize anybody to destroy federal documents of history. You don't get away with it.
We don't have any federal
I
documents,
know
Mr.
about
Parker.
these documents. Under Obama, the CDC does not have control of their paperwork anymore. The Army does. You are in an information concentration detention camp. You can't get your information, even with a lawyer. It's redacted, blacked out, and everything.
Mr. Parker, we're going to have to save this for the
Thanks.
end because this isn't applied to an agenda item.
It's in this document.
There are no federal documents that are being destroyed.
It's a part. Anytime you deal with
Mr.
government
Parker,
documents, sir.
Mr. Parker, I'm going to stop you in a
Those are
minute.
government documents. You don't trash
Mr. Parker, thank you.
government.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, Mr. Stewart, don't do that. Mr. Bailey, don't do that. Okay, with that, we'll close public comment. Item 1, CSA 1 and H2.
Warrant register.
Move allow payments.
Madam Clerk.
City Council, Successor Agency and Housing Authority members, Dodson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Chairman Buds.
Aye. E1.
LA County Safe Clean Water. Presentation.
Butts, City Council. Am I hot? I can be loud, but okay. Thank you so much for inviting the LA County Public Works here today to talk about safe, clean water. So I have a really short presentation that's about 45 minutes. Like the giggle. We're going to do this in 4 minutes with questions with 3 minutes. So my name's Pamela Manning from LA County Public Works, and I'm very happy to be here to talk to you about water. So here's the deal. In front of you, you have a presentation that's probably 18 slides. I'm going to talk through the first 10 slides and tell you that's the predicament, that's the situation. So I don't need to explain to you hydrology. Water comes from the sky, it drops into the ground. If you've got grass, if you've got dirt, it perks in. If you don't, it sheets down on concrete, right? When it sheets on concrete, it goes into storm drains, sometimes treated, sometimes untreated, goes out to marine life, and goes out to the beaches unhealthily. So now let's get to page 11. The Board of Supervisors, specifically Supervisor Sheila Kuehl, is championing a charge to capture water quality, to capture water and to imply water quality. In order to do that, we need to, oh, so sorry. Oh, we're here. We'll go here. So in order to develop a revenue source for water, because water has been the stepchild of infrastructure for so many years, and when I say stepchild, when you think about transportation, we have Measure M, Measure R, gas tax, STPL monies for transportation. We don't have that sorts of revenue for water. And it's unfortunate because water is the life spring for all of us in LA County. When I say LA County, I mean all of LA County, 88 cities. So what we're talking about doing is putting forth a $300 million per year tax revenue. And let me get to the nuts and bolts of this. So in this, we're looking at 50% would go to regional, 40% cities, 10% district programs, education, and admin, which would be the flood control district. The most important part, I think, for today is to talk about the 40% that would go to cities. So your tax generation would be approximately $1 million. That means that $400,000 would come back to the city for complete and total local control. The only requirement would be that you do something that's a water quality project. Here's the good news. Of that $400,000 potentially that would come back to the city, 30% you could use for already existing projects as long as there's a water quality nexus. 70% is for new projects. 50% would go to the regional watersheds, of which you are part of 2, which means that you get to stick your thumbs in both watersheds to apply for programs and projects. The other good piece about that regional watershed is it's not just quality, it's quantity as well. It's education. It's quality or quantity, quality, and education. The other good piece about that is there is money there for DACs. DACs for the public is disadvantaged communities. So the disadvantaged communities, whatever they may pay in taxes would come back 110% to that community, for which you could apply for projects for those communities. It doesn't have to necessarily be in the community, but it could benefit the community. 10% goes to the district in terms of programs and education. So let's say, for example, you wanted to educate your students. You wanted to do a project with your high schools and a vocational school, you can actually apply for money in that 10% district program. There's a lot of opportunity for you to take money and benefit the community with this water program. So the square footage of impervious area is kind of what we're looking at. So it's 2.5 cents per square foot of impervious area. Impervious means, of course, that the water doesn't perk through. It's concreted down like we talked about earlier. These are some examples of some of the projects that you can do. So the upper right is essentially a cistern. So imagine if you rolled back a park and stuck cisterns underneath and rolled the grass back down, and now water comes down and it seeps into concrete areas. It gets clean, it gets filtered. In the left-hand side, is there a pointer? It doesn't matter. Left-hand side, this is what we call a bioswale. So instead of the water sheeting down like we talked about from a hard surface, it goes into this little spot, and right above the assistant city manager's head, there's a little spot in between two rocks that you may or may not be able to see. That's what, the assistant, I meant the assistant. a little further over. There's a little black spot in between two rocks. So that water gets perked down because earth is our natural cleanser. That's our God-given cleanser for our water. And so it perks down, and then it goes into that drain, and then it goes into the catch basins and the storm drains. Then it goes out. We have an opportunity to collect that water and capture it. We have an opportunity to send it out cleaner to the ocean. So this is where we're heading. So May 30, there was a board motion. Right now we're presenting to stakeholders. June 26th is a big day. That's the day that the board is going to hear all the conversation, all the discussion about what's going to happen, if we're going to move forward or not. It's a huge day. Stay tuned. And then November 6th, there will be election day. If the board decides to go forward, that's when it will go on the ballot. Open for questions. Take questions from the public?
No, we don't, because we'll be here all day, but
I will be here afterwards for a few minutes, and then I'm also able to come back and do a workshop for staff if you would like.
that would be fantastic. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consent calendar, items 2 through 18.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Council members Dodson,
Aye.
Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR1.
Staff report presenting the fiscal year 2017-18 mid-year budget review report.
Is there a presentation?
Yes, Mr. David Esparza, our CFO and Assistant City Manager, will give the staff report.
Good afternoon, Council. Garza, Assistant City Manager, Chief Financial Officer, and I'm here to present our mid-year report on the fiscal and financial status of the city. First, thank my budget unit led by and I won't repeat everything that I said. I'm assuming that people could hear me, but I do want to point out and thank my budget staff, led by Kiona Buchanan and the budget analyst, Kenyatta Hinton, for their excellent work on this report. To start, on September 26th last year, the mayor and council adopted this fiscal year 2017-18 consolidated annual operating budget, including capital projects, which projected total revenues of $210,850,730 and expenditures of $242,057,496. The budget projected general fund revenues of $110,216,860 and general fund expenditures of $127,943,354, resulting in a general fund operational shortfall of $17,726,000. There was a strategy. The city manager did provide a strategy to bridge that shortfall, and it was the use of $11.5 million in reserves, anticipated healthcare savings of 3.7, and future vacancy savings of 2.5. So, starting with our usual snapshot of the key economic indicators, we show that the property tax values in Inglewood have increased 6.1% in net taxable value. Sales taxes increased 13.6% over the same period last year. Utility user taxes are down 2.2% over the same period of last year, and we'll get to that. And new development increase of 591% over the same period of last year. Hollywood Park increase of 4% over the same period of last year. Regional unemployment is down, and the city expenditures are under budget at mid-year. So this shows the math on that, and shows how we came up with the shortfall, what we used to close that shortfall, the healthcare savings, vacancy savings that I've already mentioned, and then the use of general fund reserves for one-time expenses and then ongoing expenses of $5.8 million. This is the summary of the revenues that we've collected. You can see that of the $110,228,470 that we budgeted at this mid-year point, we've collected $53,310,000, which is roughly 48.4% of ours. And you can see from, the amount that we collected last year of 47, we're about $5 million more than where we were last year. Mid-year general fund revenue performance, I'll go over this in specifics. Utility users taxes are down 2.2%, and sales taxes are up 13.6%, and the property taxes are up 11.8%. Other local taxes are up 15.6%, and other revenues are up 23%. Overall, general fund revenues are up 11.5%, which is, very good news for the city. Here you can see that our revenue projections are tracking fairly closely to what we have projected, throughout the year on an equal basis proportionately. And you can see that, we've got that small dip at, towards the very end, which, is the difference that we were talking about of, I think, 2.2%. And then general fund expenditure performance. Police and fire are at 49% of theirs, $38 million. General government at 6%, very low at this particular point of the year. Parks and Rec Services at 42%, Community Development at 38%, Public Works 32%, financing costs 8%, and then capital improvement projects at 55%. And again, here's some more detail on mid-year general fund expenditures. Police and fire services are up $3.5 million. Economic and community development up by 263. General government up by 650,000. Parks and Rec up by 235,000. Public Works up by 149,000. General fund overall expenditures are up 2%. And this is that same proportionate chart that we show for revenues. This is on the expenditure side now, and you can see that the gap between the proportionate line, which is the upper dotted line, and the fainter gray line there is the actuals. And you can see that gap is the difference that, where we're collecting our savings at this particular point, which I'd like to go back and, we've talked about this on a number of occasions, but this is typically, how the city ends its fiscal year with, on budget, because we're able to, monitor and watch our expenditures throughout the year. Current appropriations on the, did I skip one here? Oh, okay, yes. Special funds, I'm sorry. Got a little trigger happy with my thumb here. Special funds, you can see that we're tracking fairly well at 88% of our budgeted amount for the year, $98 million. Currently, we've spent $110 million in the special funds, which will catch up before the end of the year, because many of the special fund expenditures are funds that we have to advance and then get reimbursed by the state or county or other jurisdiction. So that's the reason why there's typically an imbalance there. But we will close that by, before the end of the year. Capital improvement projects summary. Current appropriations of $33.1 million. Expenditures of $10.3 million. So expenditures account for roughly 31.1% of the appropriation. Encumbrances, which are contracts but have, the work has not started, of $4.7 million. Encumbrances as a percentage of appropriations of 14.2 million, or 14.2%. This is kind of a breakdown of the capital improvement projects by category. You can see facilities, there's 3 projects in design, 7 projects in construction, and on down the list. I won't read every one of them, but you can see that of the total, 11 are in design, 27 projects are in construction. Questions?
Council questions?
I don't have, Mayor.
Councilman Padilla?
Ray, I don't have a question as much as a comment, just for the public to understand that this is just to give us a quick, idea of where we stand at the mid-year point. And it's like every other city's budget, it's very fluid. Things change midway, and they'll change again as we continue through our fiscal year. But I want to thank you guys and you and your staff and the city manager for putting together, a very comprehensive report for just our mid-year. It really does give us a sense and an idea, at least it does to me, of where we're at. When you look at our revenues and our expenditures and being at 48.4% for our revenue, compared to, to the rest of the year still coming. So it's a good report. I want to thank you and your staff for all your hard work, because when you're dealing with numbers, it's very complicated, but you've done it in a way so folks can understand it. So thank you so much.
I thank you, and I'm glad my staff is here to hear your comments, because they are the ones who really do the hard work behind this on this report.
Well, kudos to your staff. Great
Thank
work.
you.
Councilman Franklin, District 4.
So let me reach out to the staff and say thank you. And I mean that sincerely, because years ago when my colleague, the dean here, was on the dais, we were given presentations that we later found out was not the real figures that we should have been receiving, and found out we fell in some major deficit spending. Now that we have our current staff on board, they're doing their due diligence to identify, in order for us to have a general fund operating, that we had the flexibility to be able to draw down on our reserves, which it was designed for, as well as the fact of being able to identify that this council and staff was able to work on the healthcare cost reductions. And then finally, the other portion had to do with identifying that we have some jobs that could be filled, but we're not filling them at this point, which is now allowing us to have this balanced budget. And so we're right on point for the mid-year. So job well done to everyone.
Mr. Esparza,
Thank you.
30 seconds.
Councilman Morales.
Just, you actually do deserve a lot of the credit because for staff, we've had conversations in many years ago when they were not allowed to do as good a job as they're doing now, as far as I'm concerned. And that was something that, going back, since we're praising staff as we should, that they took a lead role back then in advising me on a couple things that I needed to be aware of in terms of the budget. And now with your leadership, it's clear. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Councilman Dodson.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on everything that the council said. I don't want to sit here and not thank the staff, because you guys do an omen's job. That keeps us in line and it makes us look good. So thank you all for your service.
Okay, I wasn't going to say anything. But first of all, the staff doesn't keep us in line. What they do is give us honest numbers. What they do is give us, Mr. Sparser runs a great shop, and Keona does a wonderful job of advising us as to the implications of our decisions. But the council as a whole, with the advice and counsel of the city manager, have made a series of excellent financial decisions that have put this city in a financial position it has never experienced before. So I don't feel like anybody has to keep a leash on us. But that being said, I want to go back to the explanation of the deficit. When we went through the difficult decisions, when we were on the verge of bankruptcy, we cut 120 positions from the budget, and 60 plus of them had people in them. The employees were mandated to take a 10% furlough, and there were not raises for a number of years. But although we cut, we didn't cut so far as that we wouldn't be able to deliver services, which is what a receiver would have done if we'd been put into receivership, if we'd gone bankrupt as a city. Because cities that go into receivership, the receiver comes in, they look at the budget, they look at the amount of services, and they cut the amount of people and the amount of supplies to make everything balance. They're not worried about the long-term health and viability of the city. Had we done that, we would never have been in the position that we are to attract entertainment and businesses that we've attracted. We would never have been in a position to renew the streets and infrastructure in the manner that we have to be a solid, stable city. And so for that reason, we stay ambitious. And while we have budgets that exceed projected revenues are an estimation of what will come based upon 5 years of past history. And we continue to build budgets that on the surface have a built-in deficit. We do that knowing that we have a level of general fund reserves to back us up. Now, I would say for the last 5 budgets, and Keona or Mrs. Sparks, you correct me, we have projected deficits at the beginning of the year where we were going to have to plug them with general fund reserves and I only think only in one of those years did the deficit actually manifest itself. Am I right or wrong?
That's correct.
Okay, so I want to make it clear that we run this city like a responsible company whose objective is excellence, not just getting by. And that focus on excellence is what has put us to where we are right now. We intended this year to do some things that our revenue projections didn't support. Buy new police cars, spend $1 million to fix the leaking roof at the city service center, to buy completely new radio equipment for the police department that is GPS enabled, so that we can track our resources visually and graphically. So, and that's the page right there. And what we anticipate is a $5.7 million shortfall after all of that we will plug with general fund reserves. Well, we've more than quintupled our reserves over the last 7 years, as someone is fond to say. That 11 million is more than 55 million. I think we're in the $63 million range. Is that correct?
About 69 million.
About $69 million from starting with $11 million in 2011. So when we show budgets that plug projected shortfalls with general fund reserves, we do that because we intend to provide infrastructure renewal, make sure our public safety people have the most modern and effective equipment to deploy them, and to make sure that we continue our aggressive street resurfacing and sidewalk replacement program. And I just want to thank the staff because you keep great numbers, and I want to thank the council and the manager for making great decisions. So
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And with that, we'll go to CI1. Oh, excuse me. I don't receive and file the report. And CI1.
Initiative by Councilmember Padilla requesting city sponsorship approval of the 2018 Spring Art Event to be held on Saturday, May 19th, 2018, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at True Vine Baptist Church parking lot at 1437 Centinela Avenue.
Move approval.
Second.
Before we take the vote, is this sponsorship approval have any budget implications, or is it just city sponsorship? The sponsorship is $1,000. The first and second aware of that?
Actually, I thought it was $999.99, but I'm good with the penny.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Council members Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. A1.
Thank you, Mayor. We had 3 closed session items. CS1 was Osborne versus City of Inglewood, LA Superior Court case number VC 654006. That was a trip and fall in the City of Inglewood. As to that, a discussion was held and direction given to staff. Second item is CS2 regarding the real property located at 926 South Inglewood Avenue. Negotiator for the city is Artie Fields, and the negotiating party is listed in the staff report, the agenda. As to that, there was again a discussion regarding price and terms. As to that, discussion was held and direction given to staff. The last item was CSH1, which is to a real estate property located it's a vacant lot located on Orchard Drive in the City of Inglewood. Artie Fields is the Executive Director negotiating for the Housing Authority, and Hardy Associates LLC as other property owners. As that discussion was held and direction given to staff.
Thank you. CM1.
City Manager reports.
CC1.
Yes, Mayor, I would just like to remind people that May 21st is the last day to register to vote. So if you haven't, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. CT1.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to give a brief report regarding the gross investment interest income that was earned for the month of April. And for the month of April, we earned $976,141. That came primarily for the funds invested in LAIF, $301,170. And for the bonds, $356,524. And for the CDs, I have a little over $7 million in CDs, $77,731. And for the money market, $240,695. Again, the total is $976,140. And just some of the highlights for the month of April. Total cash receipts from all sources was $20,920,276. Total cash disbursements, $17,173,942. And the net change was $222,816. And the cash $1,819,670. Cash investment value, $180,923,535. And the net increase in cash and investment value is $29,101,865. And just a little update regarding Treasury bond yields rising again. The Treasury bonds are at the 5-year bonds at 2.923, the 10 years at 3.076, the 30 years at 3.202. And Americans got used to falling gas prices from 2014 to 2016, but we are now paying dearly because an extra $4.4 billion for gas in April than they did in 2017. The cost of a barrel of oil now surged to a high of $71 from $41. National debt is at $21.050 trillion. And just a little quick update regarding the City of Stockton. As you might recall, the City of Stockton filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy protection in June 27, 2012, with over $700 million in bond debt, a $26 million budget deficit, and $147.5 million liability owed to CalPERS for failed contribution. The city went broke after 15 years of freewheeling spending, providing generous benefits to employees, retirees, and some bad development and investment projects financed with heavy debt. And as of now, the city exited that bankruptcy on February the 25th, 2015, with nearly 3 years of reorganization before the federal judge approved his plan. About 1,100 retirees lost their medical insurance coverage. The total cost of the bankruptcy, $41 million. That concludes.
Now, I really like that report. Thank you very much. The contrast is
Contrast
scintillating.
to where we are, and with the steps that the council and the mayor is taking to avoid that very thing happening here in Inglewood, as to where we were headed in 2010.
Thank you, Madam City Treasurer.
That concludes my remarks.
Any persons wishing to address the council on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered may do so at this time. Mr. Parker, you're welcome to talk about those records now. All right.
Veteran 66, 67, also a county subjector. You've heard me going on, 5 years about what has been done to black veterans and other minority veterans. The VA is the most terrorist organization that ever walked the face of this earth. They need to be Bernie Madoff, shut down, salaries frozen, and anybody that signed a wife, daughter, son on the practices they have been doing to not only the veterans, because whatever goes on in the military, when they downsize, they practice it on you, the general public, whether it be Tang or whatever for space. They have to find a use for it, all that investment. So when I tell you that these are atrocious and anybody that signed on to it, which is a signature, you Bernie Madoff, and you freeze every asset, Maxine Waters, all of them, presidents and everybody else, until they prove that not a dime they got came from one of the atrocities they committed against the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the American people as a whole. And that goes for you collaborators
Thank
at
you,
the
Mr.
lower
Parker.
level and you co-conspirators,
Could you please touch Mr.
sleepers.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
My name is Francis Taylor, and I too am a Vietnam era veteran. And I applaud you city council members for patiently listening to this gentleman who repeatedly stands up and tries to talk about matters that are more appropriately discussed at the Veterans Center. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, Ms. Sly.
Mayor and City Council. I just want to follow up with the first gentleman that spoke about the VA. I'm a veteran of the Korean conflict, and I had a brother who was a veteran of the Vietnam conflict. I have to agree with some of what he says because I had to write a special letter for my brother to get his full compensation for a 20-year vet. It took a while, but he finally got it. And the day that he got it, he called me and said he was coming out to visit me. And my sister called me 5 o'clock in the morning and told me he had been murdered by the police in Erie, Pennsylvania. So I have to agree with much of what the gentleman said because the VA needs to be cleaned out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sly.
And I have to concur with some of what is being said because my husband is standing on one foot because the VA gave him medication that in some states is against the law to give, but it causes or exacerbates diabetes. Going on from that point, and also the zero down practice does not work very well either because if the people who are real estate will not go with the zero down practice, it doesn't work. Now going on from that point, we have sent some information to you about Honor Thy Father, and as a person who adored my father was what people would call a man's man. We stood up against the mafia, and at 7, I was taught to shoot at them when they were throwing Molotov cocktails at us. He stood up against the mafia, and there are other men who are great men, and we have great stories about our fathers living and posthumously. And so for those of you who we would love to be able to leave information about Honor Thy Father, and along with that, please take a look at the letters that we have sent you. One of them had a mistake on it, so we sent another, and then maybe Mr. Padilla brought it up the first time, and maybe you guys might want to participate and help us with this in honoring men, because men do not get enough credit for the things that they do. And praise God for everyone, and I'm thankful to have an opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Mel. Is there anybody else?
My name is Willie Agee, and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. We live in a diversity city. All races, all different politics, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. And I would just like for this council to really realize that we should be represented by the city of Inglewood, not one particular race. Diversity is what got this city where it is, and that's what's going to keep us here. And I think we need a newspaper in this city that's going to represent all the people. That's the main thing. I don't like lies and, tell
We're-
the truth.
we're-
And that's what the city of Inglewood is about.
We're at time right
The
now.
truth. Thank you.
Council members, I have several questions about the mid-year report, and I know not a single one of them will be answered. So I'm going to strongly suggest that residents of the community see how other communities make presentations, and maybe they'll see the differences, because it is not wise to suggest that we have accumulated expenditures at a significant level, and yet we have actual expenditures at another. Now, perhaps numbers are very difficult for you. Maybe that's why you did get so excited about those numbers. But then again, looking at some of the background of the people that you have hired to run your financial department could be very enlightening.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll close public comment. Are there any council comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Dodson.
Okay, first of all, I would like to congratulate and say congratulations to my Beat 3 operator, Ms. Gwendolyn Goodman. She gave a District 1 block captains meeting, and she gives it every quarter, or every other month, I'm sorry. And if you live in District 1, you don't have to be a block captain. You could just be a person that lives in District 1 and attend those meetings. They're very informative. She had guests from LAWA. She had guests from our Department of Sound Installation. She had guests from the Roberts Group, Metro First Mile. So you could go there and get all the information you need as what's going on here in City of Inglewood. So if you get my newsletter, it will come out every other week. It will tell you exactly what's going on in District 1. I would also like to congratulate Home Light Family Living. I went to their Mother's Day luncheon along with the mayor and all the council people. It was a wonderful affair, the heart of a mom. This was a wonderful affair. It was well attended, and they had some wonderful moms in there. So thanks for inviting me to that. And I think we put this on. Successful Aging Fair. I went to this. And if you are a senior, you miss this, you miss some of the best information and easy information that you're going to ever get. And I'm hoping that this will be an annual event. Maybe Park and Recs put this on. I'm sure they did, because I saw Sabrina there when I first walked through the door. So my congratulations to Park and Recs, Sabrina, anyone who had anything to do with this successful aging fair. It was wonderful. It was very informative and well attended. So thank you for that, and I hope that we can make that an annual affair. I want to say happy Mother's Day to all those who I didn't get a chance to say happy Mother's Day to. I'm hoping that you had a wonderful day. And I thank you all for coming out. And thanks again to the Finance Department for a wonderful budget.
Councilman Padilla, District 2.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of events that are coming up, and I really be nice to see all our community come around and celebrate these events as we always do. The first one is this coming Saturday. It's the art show. It'll be at True Vine Church from 10 to 4. So please come out and support this community event. The following Saturday, May 26th, is Fire Service Day. It's LA County Fire Department's Regional Fire Service Day. And I say that because, see, the fire department's broken down into regions, which include several cities. And the fire department decided to hold this year's regional fire service day in Inglewood. And it'll be at Station 172 on Centinela. So it'll kick off at 9 o'clock in the morning with a pancake breakfast, the fire trucks, all their apparatus will be out there. It'll be a great community event. So bring the kids out, bring the family, bring out your neighbors. It's really an opportunity to see all the things that our fire department does for us. Keeping it with public service, this week is Law Enforcement Memorial Week. It's our opportunity as a community to thank our police officers for every day wearing that badge to protect our communities. We have the finest police department here in the city of Inglewood. And so, I thank them every day. I don't just wait for Memorial Week to thank them for their service. So, a big kudos and a thank you to our police department for all the work they do every single day. Relay for Life, American Cancer Society's Relay for Life is on June the 2nd, right behind City Hall at Crozier School. It kicks off at 9 o'clock in the morning. So please come out, help us fight cancer. I also want to congratulate the JROTC. Last week, council members Morales and Franklin and I had an opportunity to go to their award ceremony at Inglewood High School. They did an outstanding job. So thank you to them for that. With that, I just want to, on a family personal note, just congratulate my son, Alejandro. He's going to be graduating this Friday from Cal State Dominguez Hills with his bachelor's degree in accounting. So a big congratulations to my son. And then today I want to wish my daughter Priscilla a happy birthday. I love you, mija.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Franklin, District 4.
Yes, I first of all want to thank Mark Frontorada and our city attorney, Kenneth Campos, on their due diligent efforts on solidifying, once again, our ICOP Center in Beat 4 and in District 4. There were some tough negotiations that took place, and to the point that today this council, and I thank this council for voting to approve the contract, so we can now start moving into our new facility, which is going to be located at 2640-B West Imperial Highway. Same shopping center, but it's now going to be on the first floor, immediately across from Planet Fitness. We're now going to start the process to relocate. However, we are still at the current location in the City Bank building on the 5th floor, Suite 508. That being said, there's a number of community events that were going to take place with the anticipation that we'd already be in the new location. However, that was not the case. The Community Development Block Grant that we normally get from the federal government, which is based on the U.S. Census from 2010, they give us annual appropriations based on population count in the Community Development Block Grant area, that this was going to be scheduled a public meeting at the new Police Community Center. However, we're still going to have the meeting this coming Thursday at 6 o'clock, which will be immediately across the hallway from the current Police Community Center. And so it's going to be at 2930 West Imperial Highway in the City Bank building on Suite 509. There's the forms are out front for you to make your selection as to the funds that we do receive from the federal government. We want to know, how do you want it to be appropriated? So when you see this flyer right out front, we encourage you to go out there and get it. This Thursday is the last day. We've been doing it throughout the city, but this Thursday is the last day that you'll be able to fill out the forms and submit it to us, or you can mail it to us by the end of the month. But more importantly, you'll be able to meet with staff and engage in dialogue and discussions about the funds and how it's going to be appropriated throughout our various community development block grant areas in the community. On that note, everyone have a blessed day. Thank you.
Councilman Morales, District 3.
Thank you. Just briefly touching on some of the things that were already said. The Home Light Family Living the Mother celebration at the casino on Saturday was amazing. I mean, you got to, first of all, that program is one of the best programs I've seen to get single mothers that have gone through some serious obstacles back on their feet. It's run by a guy by the name of Ricardo Rosales, if I'm correct, right, Alex? And I know Councilman Padilla plays a big role there. It's in his district, but we met some of the alumni, and just to hear what they've gone through and how some of them have decided to come back and live here and leaving on their own, that's amazing. So it was a great program. The ROTC across the street, I'm always amazed at how good a job folks can do with so little resources. And to close out their season, I'll call it a season, I don't know if it's the school year for ROTC, they came together to celebrate, all the children and the families there. So it was great turnout, and I just appreciate being invited along with some of my colleagues, as Councilman Padilla said. And then congratulate Councilman Padilla for his son who's graduating college, because nobody can do anything without the support of some serious parenting. So that'll be fun to celebrate for you guys. So anyway, Mayor, that's all I got.
Okay. Congratulations to Alejandro and Councilman Padilla and his wife for the excellent job that they've done. It's a real accomplishment to receive your degree. And I wanted to give appreciation to the Deltas who had a lot to do with putting on that health fair this weekend. I want to also thank Rotary, who was represented, and Sentinel Hospital as well. It's just one of the things that make Inglewood, Inglewood. Everybody that can attend should attend the Fire Service Day. I want to give a special congratulations to the police department today. About 3 weeks ago, there was a senseless homicide at an eatery near La Brea and Centinela. And then 2 weeks ago, there was a double homicide. 2 young men in their 20s were found in a car, murdered. And both suspects have been apprehended. Both suspects have been filed upon. The homicide at the eatery was a senseless, non-directional shooting based upon a fight that had occurred earlier. The homicide on 100, I believe it was 107th, 3700 block, 3700 block, was 2 young men found in a car, brutally murdered. It turned out to be domestic. The suspect had a relationship with one of the males that was murdered. And so I wanted to assure the community that this was not an act of random violence, and that suspect is in custody. Our police department and our police chief, and I know police work, and I will tell you that when I came back to this town, our clearance rate for homicides was atrocious. And what the chief has done in marshaling the resources, in picking a great commander, Captain Mark Freed, for the investigative office investigations, has turned things around tremendously. And so, again, to Chief Ronarata, Captain Freed, to the homicide investigators who really took that first 48 hours and turned it into leads. We have the last 2 homicides that are successfully cleared, and the suspects have been filed upon. The last thing I want to talk about is ad hominem attacks. Our Chief Financial Officer and Kiona and the whole budget team, Sharon Quakey, Maria Haney, Peggy, everybody down there does a fantastic job. And you don't pave streets with imaginary money. You don't buy $3 million worth of new mobile radio equipment with imaginary money. You don't spend $1 million to fix a roof that has been leaking for an excess of 8 to 10 years with imaginary money. You don't trim trees with imaginary money. And then for someone to get up after all the things that have happened in this city after all the audits that we've put the city through, after 4 bond rating upgrades in 3 years by Standard & Poor's and Moody's, after an advisory from Moody's that says of all the cities they rate across this country, that the city of Inglewood has the highest percentage of unobligated reserves compared in percentage-wise to its spending plan of any city in the country, and then to put out a non-specific attack and say you should, cryptically say you should look into the background of the people that are doing the work, I thought that was outrageous. Outrageous. If you had a complaint about results, if you said we were where Stockton was, as our city treasurer so magnificently articulated the factors that go into that, I could understand you talking about facts. But a non-specific ad hominem attack is outrageous. I have the greatest confidence in all of our city staff right now, and I applaud the people that are working for this city because they have taken things to a new level in terms of service here. I've never seen service like this in any city that I've worked for, and I've worked for 3 of them, and this one twice. So I want to thank the staff. I want to say thank you, staff, for where you've brought this city. For that, we're adjourned.